Hello, good morning, and welcome. This is Sunrise. I'm Ayo Makinde. Hope you had so far a beautiful and productive week. Today is Saturday, and it is the second day in the month of August 2025. And, well, first of all, what kind of year have you had? If you are worried about whether the year has gone the way you wanted it to go or not, I don't think you should. I think you should just allow yourself to breathe because, hey, life is, just what it is, for every single one of us. The year is not over. It's just the 8th month of the year. So there's still a lot that can happen in the next few months in the rest of the year. And part of what is happening, of course, a number of people have been seeing what the president has been saying, and there's always the wonder of what are the state governments themselves doing and all of that. But the one that I would love to focus on, and we've been talking about this for a very long time, this whole conversation about agriculture. Mechanizing agriculture, modernizing agriculture in the country. There are a number of steps have been taken here and there, but I'm always concerned about young people and how we are including them or factoring them into the entire conversation. I think about a month ago, Channels Television reported that the president said that the federal government is making agriculture more sexy. Well, don't worry, that word is not lewd. Sexy just means appealing, so calm down. So, yeah, that the federal government is doing everything to make agriculture appealing, to young people. And that would be definitely laudable. And in fact, if you do any simple search on any topic, particularly around this, you will find out that a number of things have been done variously. And over the years, the federal government has been making some inroads about that. Don't forget that at some point we heard that the president declared, from the vice president, that the president declared a state of emergency on agriculture. How well that is going, I guess we'll see over time. We also understand that there has been that charge to the governors by the federal government, by the president in particular, that the state governors should invest more in agriculture in a way that will directly target the people. And I always talk on this program about the special agro-industrial processing zones, and it will seem like another state is adding to the list of states that have commissioned their own special agro-industrial processing zones. Don't forget, that's about $538 million investment by the AFDB in partnership with some other financial partners, guaranteed by the federal government, but it is the states, a good number, I think about 7 or 8 of them that have indicated interest in that one. This morning, I think maybe in about an hour from now, the Oyo State government is also commissioning groundbreaking its own special agro-industrial processing zone somewhere in Ijaye, in Oyo State. So how that goes, I guess we'll see. I have been to Oyo State. I've been to 1 or 2 other states, and I can say that Oyo State has a history of very viable agricultural investments. There is a place called Fashola Farms, Fashola, community, farming community, whatever it is. It's age-long, dates back into the 60s. And the wonderful things that they have done. And guess what? That is not even the special agro-industrial processing zone. So what are they going to do? I guess time will tell. The important thing for me has always been 2 things. Number one, as far as SAPZs are concerned, number one, who is communicating to who? How many people know what's happening in there? And then number 2, how much of these things are being done for young people to be a part of it. There are a few young people that are already part of it, but how many of them are really interested? That's another thing you want to consider. Now, there's this information that came on sometime last week. We saw that some retired policemen protested because their pensions weren't being paid and stuff. And I was concerned because for those who have been following the news, there's always been this back and forth between the Nigeria Police and the Police Service Commission. And the first question that came to my mind was, wait, when I heard that the police were protesting, I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that supposed to be the job of the Police Service Commission? Isn't the Police Service Commission, which is in charge of recruitment and in charge of let me see, the appointments of policemen, the promotion of policemen, and the disciplinary control of policemen? Aren't they also supposed to be in charge of the welfare of police personnel? They are supposed to be, technically, they're supposed to be in charge of the welfare of the police, including the pensions that they get. But then why is it the IGP that is writing to the Senate that they needed to remove the police from the contributory pension scheme? Don't they know that it is or it is not working? Isn't there a need for some kind of review? What I also understand, and I hope I'm wrong, but what I also understand is that every time we have the Police Service Commission, it's usually a policeman, a retired policeman or something, or at least someone who has been in the system, that heads the Police Service Commission. Don't they know what the problem is? I'm asking these questions because there is a need to ensure that the things that policemen today are seeing doesn't hinder them from doing what they need to do today. Because if they see the way the people who have retired are being treated, what are we telling them? We're essentially telling them to do the same. We're essentially throwing them, to the dogs, so to speak. It's an appeal. And I'm hoping that someone who needs to listen is listening to all of these things, because at the end of the day, we just got one life. Then there's this news that we heard that there's been an increase, about 5% increase in the fuel surcharge. That's from the point is from January next year, Nigeria will implement what they call a 5% surcharge on fuel, both locally produced and imported, petrol and diesel. There is going to be a 5% surcharge under the Nigeria Tax Administration Act, which is one of the 4 tax reform laws signed in June this year. The expectation is that on an annual basis, the federal government will raise some more than 700 billion naira from that source alone. And based on 2024 data showing consumption of around 18 point, that's based on, that's 18.75 billion liters at 850 naira per liter. That's what it's going to come to, almost 800 billion. What if it goes up? What if it goes down? And the question is, if fuel subsidy has been removed and Nigerians are already bearing the brunt, pray tell, haven't we had enough? Now, I know that in the taxes, there's going to be there has been a lot of relief for people. So it seems like I'm giving you something with one hand and collecting it back with another. That's the way it is looking. Dear federal government, we really need intervention. We really need understanding about these things, because there's just a lot that people are grappling with now. Businesses, I don't know how many of them are surviving, how many of them are surviving. Small businesses in particular. How about micro businesses? Way worse. Nano businesses. How are they coping? Now, if they have to also pay this surcharge of 5%, it automatically means that transportation costs will increase. Okay, yes, I hear that. I hear you. That some of these vehicles already have CNG. What's the percentage of vehicles, public transportation vehicles, that run on CNG compared to the ones that don't, the ones that still run on diesel and on petrol? I'm hoping that someone is listening and someone is considering all these issues together, so that Nigerians, whom you want to save and deliver from hardship, aren't getting a much worse brunt of the whole issue. I hope that has been heard, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a bloody presenter. Now, we have a number of issues to discuss this morning. That spat between the federal, among the federal government, as in the terms of the president, and the U.S. government putting out that information about governors, and all of those other things raises the question about public office and public trust. That's going to be our first conversation this morning. We have quite a load of people to talk about that one. And then Workman, empowering lifestyles through instant access and peace of mind. Find out what that is all about next. And then we'll be looking at the 2024 State of Disability Inclusion Report. How many states have done what? Find out more about that. On Lifestyle this morning, we'll be talking about eye rolls to high fives. How parents get eye rolls. I mean, you know, you tell a child something, they rolls the eye or gives you a high five. We'll find out more about that when we have a conversation with the team mentor. And the artist of the week this morning, let's just say he's a human being who, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but it's a big cat, so it won't be out of the bag that easily. Let's just say it's a she. In the meantime, join us for the next 3 odd hours. Get your own cup of cocoa or cocoa. I'll be right back. Thank you for remaining with us this morning. Now, the conversation about leadership and accountability in Nigeria has taken a new turn, it would seem. First, that sharp rebuke from the United States, alleging that while ordinary Nigerians tighten their belts, many state governors continue to splurge on luxury government houses and palatial offices. Then came President Tinubu's charge, a call to governors to lead with empathy and restraint. But here is the big question. How are the governors really performing? And how does their lifestyle, or a lack of it, engender public trust in public office? Thanks to the just released 2025 State Performance Index by Phillips Consulting, we now have hard data, not speculation. The reports evaluated about all 36 states, actually, based on both audited financials and citizen feedback. States like Niger, Adamawa, and Abia rose from the bottom to the top, driven by reforms, transparency, and deliberate spending on real needs. That's hard data from that report. Others like FCT, Kano, and Bayelsa, they dropped sharply, often for failing to publish audited accounts for or underinvesting in critical services. Benue, despite being Nigeria's food basket, ranks 35th in capital expenditure, according to the 2025 State Performance Index report by Phillips Consulting. In fact, only 14% of its revenue is internally generated. You believe that? Now, in Kogi, just 7% of residents say they're satisfied with job opportunities. And across most states, 80% of the citizens say they don't know any ongoing government programs in their local government areas. These aren't just figures. They are windows into the silent frustrations of millions of Nigerians. So this morning, we ask the real questions. In a time of hardship, who's leading with purpose? Who's leading with waste? Are state budgets serving the people or simply sustaining the political class? Is the president correct in his assertion or allusion? Is the United States authorized to say what it said? Is there any truth or any fallacy in it? How do we judge from the citizen's perspective whether both parties are right about their governors or not? And how come it seems like we haven't really heard from the governors, particularly the Governors Forum, about those allegations? Conversations this morning we have with 3 gentlemen joining us. Mr. Enang is a strategic thought leader and an economist. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Dayo.
Also here with us is Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project. Sarah, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Morning.
As well as Mr. Yakubu Dati, who is a former Commissioner for Information in Plateau State. He is Chairman, Governing Council, Federal Polytechnic Ileoluji. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
Yeah. Let me begin with you, Mr. Oluwadare. those opinions, I'm sure you've heard them, and it's not the first time. In fact, there's one of your colleagues, I think it's PLSI, also have this kind of a report similar to what Phillips Consulting has done. But what's your take on the president's opinion and the U.S. president, the U.S. government's opinion about the seeming, let me use that term, seeming profligacy of governors?
So why is it seeming? But maybe we'll get to that. Thank you very much for that. I would say that my opinion, and representing my organization, that is SERAP, would be the reality on ground, the facts. And that would mean that the U.S. government is not far from the mark. And that would also translate that the president would appear to be shifting the blame. The reality on ground today is that most Nigerians perceive the governors have been profligate. It speaks to the level of poverty in Nigeria. And the president really doesn't need the U.S. government to say that before he knows that. And that is why he's the C&C. And that is why he superintends over the governors. And so what the governors are doing, it's not...
Do you think the president superintends over the governors?
Over the country. And that is why it's called the commander-in-chief. And with the nature of federalism we practice, perhaps we call it the type of democracy we practice, the president has a lot of powers to influence the economy.
Influence, but does he have authority over the governors?
But he can set precedent, moral and legal. A very good example, we're talking about public trust here. Has the president declared his assets openly? What does that mean in terms of what governors should do or do that? What about the implementation of the report of the Auditor General? How has the president fared? Why should the governors also do the same? Loans and borrowing. The federal government is borrowing, perhaps the biggest borrower. Why won't the states take a cue from it? And to show you that this is not new, even the World Bank has seen this as a problem. And as far back as 2018, they inaugurated what is called the SIFTAS program, simply to make governors or state governments be more open and accountable to the people, not to the World Bank. And what that program simply means, among other things, is for the state governments to publish information, fiscal information, that includes data, that includes budget performance and the likes, which is not done across most of the states. So the governors have been largely deficient in terms of playing their part in providing leadership in terms of public trust. And that is perhaps because the president has not done enough as well. And that speaks to the infrastructure deficit that we have all over the country. And that's why you see governors who prioritize building big buildings at the expense of building infrastructure that will benefit the people. Talk about education, talk about health, talk about security, that the governors, according to what they get security votes. And they are called the chief security officer of their state. So again, there is no way you can divorce the president from what is happening at the states, which I must tell you, it's not good.
Okay. Well, let me come to you, Mr. Dati, on this issue, because you have worked with a state governor before, so is there a possibility that there are some things that we are missing in this whole conversation about the perspective concerning governors? The U.S. government came up with that statement about our governors in Nigeria. The president, and this is not the first time the president is calling out the governors. So, some time back when the traditional rulers, I think, visited the president, he told them, look, talk to your governors to make sure that the development drills down. Now, recently, speaking to the Economic Council, National Economic Council, with the vice president, which the vice president chairs, and in his presence, telling the governors to drill down development to the people. Is it possible that there are some things happening that people are not aware of? What's your perspective about that?
Well, thank you very much. To start with, Chairman Federal College, Federal Polytechnic, Ayede, Luji. To come back to your question, it's very important to also put things in perspectives. First and foremost, the president had made a lot of savings with the reforms that he has introduced into the system, which has resulted in humongous amount going to the states and local government. For instance, in 2022, the federal allocation was 12.36 trillion naira. In 2023, it was 16.28 trillion, and by 2024, it's 28.78 trillion, a 79% leap. That in itself means that more resources are going to the states and local government areas. And I believe the president already preempted when he mentioned in one of the speech that the governor should wet the ground a little in the states. And I think that should be the focus of the discussion, what the president has said, not what the U.S. is saying, because Nigeria is an independent nation. The U.S. cannot dictate to us what we need to do. And I believe this calls to what the president said. And I think the state governments, most of them are doing quite a lot, some are not. But the areas of focus is to advise that there should be more investment in the area of infrastructure, health, agriculture, education. Those are critical areas that will serve as a buffer, as safety nets to the economic challenges we are facing. The president has done his part by deploying humongous resources to the states and local government. So it's up to the state governments to take over the challenge of ensuring that it goes down to the grassroots.
Well, just 1 second, Mr. Dati, if you can hear me. I hear you about what you said,
yes,
concerning the U.S., that we're an independent nation and all. I hear you. But the Nigerian listening to you and watching you right now will tell you, don't our public officials take Nigerian money to the U.S. to invest? Don't Nigerian officials, whether or not they include state governments, convert Nigerian naira into dollars to keep in the U.S.? Doesn't the United States government have data about how Nigerian public officials stack money from Nigeria, sources that can be traded into their country? So making these statements, for instance, that the U.S. government has come to make, number one, I don't think it's the first time that they're making that kind of statement. Number two, isn't it in the interest of Nigerians that we know what some of these things are, some of these things are happening, some of these things that are happening? And then you also said that it lines up with what the president said. Doesn't that also confirm that? Doesn't the president confirm what the U.S. has said, and what the U.S. said, confirming what the president said?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that we should take our bearing from what our president, who already made those statements, than trying to recolonize ourselves and look at America as the beacon. Already what we are seeing in America does not show that America is showing good example in terms of democracy. So the point I'm trying to make is we need to appreciate what we have. The president had already made that statement that the governor should look inwards. And I believe that this discussion should look at how to advise and railroad development that should trickle down to the ordinary people at both the local government and
the question about that is, does the governor, just 1 second, Mr. Dati, does the governor who applied for a job, does the governor need to be told what to do? Don't they know that their people need human capital development? Don't they know that they need infrastructure?
Yeah, and that is why it's important that we discuss and bring those issues to light. Don't forget, just like the other speaker said, we have the SIFTAS, which is the state fiscal responsibility that the World Bank has put in. These are measures that are put in place to guide and direct the governors towards transparency. So we should also begin to look at moving the focus of the governors to areas that have direct bearing on their citizenry, because right now the issue of non-payment of salary is in the past. Because there is so much funding going on to the states, we don't have the issue. In fact, in the immediate past, we had like 26, or rather 26 states that were owing salaries. We don't hear that anymore. We used to have strikes over salaries. We don't hear that anymore. And I believe that this president is, through the Renewed Hope agenda, is giving responsibility. And we live in a federation. We don't live in a system where the president is the headmasters and supervising the governors. The governors are an entity of their own. He has done his own, and we are also advising the governors to do their own so that development will trickle down to the grassroots, to the ward level, to the polling units. And this can be done through areas of infrastructure development, areas of health, areas of education, areas of agriculture, which is being done. But it needs to trickle down, and that can only be done through the state governments and the local governments, who are being evidently empowered in terms of resources.
I'll still take you up on why you think that the governors are having that difficulty, because why they still have to be told what to do. But let me come to you, Mr. Enang. And I know you have quite a lot of things thought up already. But, you know, maybe one place that I want to start, you have had to speak with top leaders, you know, across the length and breadth of the country. It is on the one hand, it is disturbing that the U.S. has to be saying what it said. And Mr. Dati says we shouldn't be looking at what the U.S. said. Well, maybe we can agree on that. But don't forget, we're also talking to and listening to what the World Bank is saying. Aren't we subnational? Aren't we independent enough to be independent of the World Bank as well? I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Well, it's an interesting conversation, and I think that the fine lines sit between public trust versus public office. And the expectations. And the world of speaking to perception, people tend to weight it off. I mean, if you have a perception index, the tendency is everybody will tell you how did they get it, what did they do. But perception, like some would say, is reality. But however, when you occupy a public office, there is an expectation. The minute Ayo Makinde is pronounced into a certain public office as a role set, I, as a citizen and individual, automatically will kick in with an expectation. That expectation is going to build based on how you act and based on what you say and based on what you do. I will then have a perception. My perception will now be based on that event. People should understand that there's something called a perception ladder. A perception ladder starts just the same way you have a camera. It's an event. So you have a camera, you focus on the subject, and you take a shot of it. The minute you do, it just takes that particular situation. From that situation, you're going to make out some meaningful judgments. You'll act on it, and ultimately it will affect the way you are going to receive or say what you'd say. So when we try to dance around stuff, we are just hiding behind the finger. Whether it's the US, whether it's Canada, whether it's the mother, the father in the village, there's a perception. Now, what that tells you is that there's a challenge with public trust, and how do you build it? So I think rather than having conversations around whether there's legitimacy of one country saying what, it's irrelevant, in my opinion. What we should be focusing on is this what we need to sort out? And yes, we need to. How do we enhance public trust such that public officers know this? And I may add, there's a tendency to always look at the politicians, the public holders, but there are a lot of people that are holding public offices by virtue of their roles, but they are in the private sector. They equally impact on all of this. So
well, they are not the ones on that trial right now.
No, but it adds up.
I get it.
It adds up because I'll tell you, when have you put the bankers into all of this? Where is this? All the money is going. Is it not going to a bank? The governors, they say, okay, they are making the allocations. Are they coming to personal homes? No, they're going through the financial system.
We should have certain parameters that should discourage something. But, you know, the question that I want to ask you, you know, as a kind of follow-up is, and I've asked this question a good number of times, for the president to be saying what he said, and it is not the first time the president is saying it, I repeat that. And it is not, we're not, this Sarah, PLSI, and even now, Phillips Consulting, they have come up with all these parameters saying, look, governors need to sit up. The question that I've often asked Mr. Enang is, don't the governors know their job description?
It's a very good question. And you know the answer.
I don't.
first of all, coming from where, the president has access, and part of it is hard facts, he has numbers, he has information, he has intelligence, and then he has a soft part, which is coming from the perception. President has a cook. President has a friend in Akwa Ibom or in Ogun who has access to him and say, Daddy, that whole milieu will have that perception. So he's sitting there and saying, guys, do something. Now, you took this office, and you don't need to blame the governors. You should blame us, the people. We are the problem. Because what do we want? We want a case where every 4 years we are giving handouts. And then we don't scrutinize. We don't inspect what we expect. So anybody can just jump on and then spend the money. Look at the rallies. And it's more make-believe. So show me where a job description is written. What is the role of a public officer? Whether it's a civil servant, a mid-servant, or even an elected public servant. What is the role? Do we know? Do you know the role or the job description of an administrative officer? Do you? So it's all between the context of transparency and accountability. Is that sense of responsibility that would allow anybody taking on that office to say, I'm here in trust. It's about stewardship. And we wait too late in the pie. All of these conversations, because we didn't build. We didn't build from the scratch. What is our curriculum saying about morals? I got into primary education when we were talking about civics and moral instruction. That was how we were built. I got into the Red Cross. I got into the Boys Brigade. I was a scout. Now, those are institutions that begin to tell you that you need to get up someday and be responsible. And so when I become a governor, I've been built to last. But we have automatic, leadership. And that's not, you can't start, teaching old tricks when how do you want to make it happen? So it's not about job description. It's about the process of building and who takes on that responsibility. I always say to people, it's not about, you can have a great strategy. You can have a great what, when, why. Ask all the questions, bring it to the table. But the biggest challenge you have is the who, WHO. If you have a wrong who, your best strategies will go down the drain. So let's build a who. Let's look at it and say, what is the fabric? What is expected of a public office holder? Whether governor, whether minister, and what are the do's and don'ts? See, civil service rules are only said when you get into a place, but do they not? How often do they go through the curriculum to say, is this thing still tenable?
I'm going to ask you that question,
Mr. Can I share the job description of a governor?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to ask.
Because Mr. Nyak said perhaps it, and I'm sure you know, Mr. Wakine.
I don't know. I don't know.
Talk about it. It's clear. And it's not the problem of a lack of a legal framework that does not prepare these job descriptions. It is there. It is simply because of impunity. For instance, let's look at the Constitution. The Code of Conduct for Public Officers in the 5th schedule to the Constitution. It's very clear. It states clearly what a public officer should not do. I'm talking of morality that Mr. Nyak said. It's also there. It states clearly that a public officer, and public officer means anyone that works in the public sector, whether appointed or elected, should not act in its own best interest or interest that would conflict with that of the Nigerian people. It's very clear. The same thing is repeated in the 7th schedule of the Constitution, the oath of office that everybody takes, whether they are appointed or elected. And that even speaks to all the 3 arms of government and the 3 tiers of government, from president to governor to local government chairman, also from the Senate, from the legislature to the executive and the judiciary. This oath is also very clear about the expectations of a public officer. And there are various other institutions that also mandate it. A good example would be the CCB, that collects the asset declaration forms of public officer, keeps it in its custody, verifies the content, and also should make it available to Nigerians. There is the EFCC that has more of the investigative and prosecutive mandate. There is the ICPC that has more of the educative mandate. So we have structures in place, and they are not supposed to be perfect. What has happened over time is impunity has eroded the functionality of these systems that should be the job description. Nobody gets punished for it, and everybody does what he or she likes. And that's why I gave the example of the moral burden and the legal obligation on the part of the president to set the pace, which gives him that authority, as it were, which of course because he has in law already, to mandate the governors to follow suit.
So where is the place of federalism when if the president has to mandate the governors?
No, he's talking of leadership.
Talking of leadership. Of course, that's why he's called the commander-in-chief. So I give
he is commanding and chiefing the military, the armed forces.
But he has oversight. I will give a very good example. The UBEC Act. We've spoken about the key indices that we should use to judge government, the state governors as part of infrastructure. We have education, for instance. The state governors are responsible for primary school education. And the UBEC Act makes a provision in Section 11 that says not less than 2% of the consolidated revenue fund shall be set apart for education. That is from the federal government. And that is why UBEC administers that fund and the state governors provides counterpart funding. What has happened over time, which I think there's a bit of a change last year, in August last year, was that the Nigerian government just earmarked just that 2%. And the law says not less than. If the federal government sees education as very important, it can be 5%. It can be 7%. The monies we're spending on pension for governors, for building houses for the vice president, for security votes for the president, for buying jets, will be funneled into that certain example. So if the president, if the federal government provides just that 2%, then what we've seen over, and Terap has taken our advocacy in this regard, is that the state governors really provide their own counterpart funding to assess the funds. That is on one part. When you look at health also, the National Health Act, it's also the same thing. Section 11 of the National Health Act also says that not less than 1%. And what the federal government also does is just to provide that minimum 1%. And the federal government wants to convince me that they have health and education as something that is important to them. That does not set that moral authority to make the state to follow, to do what they should do.
Well, Mr. Dati, I'll ask you the same question, particularly because you have worked with a governor before. The reason it's important is for people to know, because most times when you find, as Mr. Enang said earlier, at these rallies, the things we hear from the governors is anything but what is according to their job description, if they know this job description. So do you think elected governors, particularly in this Fourth Republic, know their job description? And do you think they understand fully what, to use Mr. Enang's words again, the people expect of them in public office?
Yes, I think the job description is clear, but also we have to also juxtapose it with reality on the ground. For instance, most people appreciate and the governors, the pressure of being a governor. I'm not trying to hold big excuses for them, but in most of the states, people, the pressure on the governors to attend burial ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, child education, is even used as a higher metrics in measuring and rewarding support for governors than even the projects they put on the ground. But that aside, we are already seeing governors that are standing out. For instance, with the hardships that are going across the country, we've seen governors who have provided buses. Governor in Kaduna State has provided buses to ease transportation. Plateau also is providing buses and train to ease transportation. Other states are bringing in fertilizer. In fact, even National Assembly members are bringing in fertilizers. But the focus, like the indices that is in the Revenue Mobilization Fiscal Commission, is to look at those areas that will attract more funding to the Federation usually. For instance, issue of number of beds where part of the indices that are used, number of primary schools. So those are the areas that a focus should be placed on in order to alleviate the challenges that ordinary Nigerians are going through. And right now, that is why we are saying that these governors are already elected, they are protected by the law. So we will make more progress if we begin to show the light. For instance, in some states, you have what you call project delivery result-oriented office. We used to have it when we were at the state under Governor Lalong, which creates a window, a mirror for the states to look at what is being done. How are the people perceiving it? Are we on the right track? So those are internal mechanisms you set as a state governor to help you to remain focused and to see that you reach out to the basic necessities of the people. And we are talking about issues of agriculture, health, provision of good health services, education. So those are areas where I think when there's more focus, it will reduce the pressure on the federal government, which has already provided the enablements and ability to the other federating units to be able to reach out. Because you don't expect the federal government, for instance, to come and start taking care of primary school teachers or building cottage hospitals or health centers. Those are the responsibilities of the states and local government areas. So ours is to begin to create a mirror, and also that is where the NGOs also come in, to begin to shine light on areas that should be of focus, that has direct concern. And of course, it changes.
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Darcy. I've picked on something that you said, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. Enang. He's talked about distractions. Having to attend birthday parties, burial ceremonies, there are distractions. From what Mr. Oluwadare said, I have gone to use AI to check what are the duties and responsibilities of the state governors, and I cannot find attending burials and all of those things in it. But he called them, Mr. Dati has worked with the state governor before, he called those things distractions. And he says that they are significant.
Yeah.
Is that, so again, it goes back to whether or not the state governors know their priorities.
You know, I believe that they do know. It's one thing to know, which is the overall, and you must give that benefit of the doubt that someone knows what he or she is going in for. So let's give that as a base. Now, Mr. Dati talked about distractions. Of course, there's pressure. The minute you have an appointment, let's not even talk about a governor. If they appoint you now, SA to a governor, there's pressure.
You mean SA to set up a loan
on there's pressure. You're going to have your constituency, your immediate constituency. There are, again, going back to what I said, expectations. But I don't think we should get to that construct of saying attending social functions will impact. No, that's not the kind of thing we're talking about, with due respect. What we're saying is that, it speaks to self-leadership. It speaks to what should be done when a public office holder gets into that office. You must know that public trust is an automatic expectation. Now you have to now manage yourself in time to ensure that you deliver the dividends of that office, because it's all connected, the interconnectedness in this whole thing. I know that you're pointing the searchlights on governors. There's a lot of pressure on the governor. And I look at my own governor, for instance, he couched an agenda, the Arise agenda, and he uses that, and everybody tends to follow through. So there's a path of thought leadership, and there's a path where you decide on each element of that delivery, how do I measure how I'm doing? And so he could then decide, I need some execution managers. So within my own cabinet, I'm going to call out some people who will inspect what I expect, and automatically diffuse the pressure, and I can focus on the day-to-day, which is about the thinking, which is about delivering the good things, and then doing one other thing, management by walking around. And that's a major piece that public officers should embrace. Management by walking around or walking about. Go down to the same places and find out what is happening. But that gives you all the feel, and what really the perception is happening on the ground.
Mr. Enang, one of the contests we've always had is that of politics over governance and vice versa. And I'd like you to speak to that for a bit. Because as Mr. Dati said, those distractions are real. How significant they are for one governor may differ from that of the other. So help us speak to what you would advise, if you could, as a thought leader, what the governors should be looking at in terms of, the balancing act of politics and governance. So the president himself, for instance, have been seriously criticized about concerning his appointments, that, okay, there are certain things that you should not play politics with. Electricity shouldn't be one of them. Power, the energy sector should not be one of them, but it would seem like maybe his hands are tied, I don't know, but the dynamic or the delicate balance of politics and governance.
You know, Ayo, let's be frank with ourselves. Mr. Oluwadare, you know this. We all know it. They are intertwined. If a man gets into an office, he's under pressure to deliver the results. Who do you expect him to go pick? Someone he knows, or someone he doesn't know, or someone in between? So the tendency, I mean, if you've ever, when you sit as a leader and as a business leader or a political leader, your natural affinity will be to those you know. And many times over, you can only know as far as you've been able to, you can see and understand. So you bring in people, and remember the human factor, that somebody has said to you, I know this guy can do this, but you've not tested him in that office. He gets in there, he becomes a different monster. Now, coming home to politics, if I choose to pick Oluwadare, people will say, oh, it's because they attended the same school, Baptist Academy. If I choose to pick somebody from Akwa Ibom, will say it's because it's his brother. Now, we politicized a lot of things, and even our public office holders do not even mince words. Sometimes they go with impunity. So it's about the behavior. If we truly have governance at the back of our mind, you will see the structure will come alive. It's like the skeleton. The skeleton is a structure. And you see a man my size, we all have skeletons, you know, but it's the meat on top of it that now shows you the flesh that tells you how big this is and how sizable it will be and how much I can take from it. When you build that structure as a governor, the next thing is the process. Within the process, what do I need to do? And being able to measure and know that if people are expecting this from me, I need to go back to them. Look at the last time I was here, I said, we must not dismiss the development is at the local level. So whenever anybody is talking about primary anything, state and locals are the ones to make it happen. How many of the local government chairmen have clear metrics? But they are errands boys when people just want them, Bamisari Shele, do this for me. And then at the end of the day, they are closer to the ground. So politics overrides governance. And people now, perception is, the minute you step into that office, even your driver will be under pressure.
Interesting.
To deliver.
Poor driver. Well, Mr. Oluwadare, there are a couple of comments, but one of them in particular that I want you to speak to. Tola is saying public office holders need to make sacrifices to enable the change happen, sticking to their functions under the laws. The vicious cycle of using our Commonwealth for things outside the Constitution needs to stop. Let's stop hiding under one finger of distractions. But this is the one that I want you to speak to. Festus Akimboye sends the same. Nigeria, and indeed no independent nation, should face interference in its internal affairs, least of all by powerful countries like the US. Just last week, many UK taxpayers were dismayed to foot the bill for securing the US president, who visited to play golf in Scotland, an act that seemed more self-indulgent than diplomatic. This kind of episode deepens public trust in politicians. When citizens feel neglected and overlooked, when leaders appear to prioritize personal interests over the well-being of ordinary people, confidence in government erodes. So the question then is, we have to build public trust in public office. But how do we do that when it seems like the occupiers are building more public distrust than public trust?
Thank you very much. This is not a new conversation. In fact, I'm having a sense of deja vu that perhaps we've spoken about this here before. It's simple, and there have been many technical ways to look at this, but the simplest way, it appears to me, would be to strengthen institutions. So when we talk about public trust, it is public trust in the office. not public trust in the individual. When there is public trust in the office, the individual that gets there is conformed to the trust that existed before he or she got there. But politics seems to focus on the person, while governance focus on the office. And building institutions, it's rather simple, really. It's a matter of the legal framework that sets up that institution.
Sorry, something that you said now kind of aligns with what Mr. Enang said. You said public office, there is a difference between the public office and the public officer.
Yes,
that's what it sounds like.
The trust rests on the office, not on the person. Because when the person
governance is on the office,
while politics is on the
officer.
It's on the person, yes. And
that's why he said they are intertwined.
Yes, but they are intertwined, but of course it means that they are separate. But at a point, they are not parallel lines, they conjoin, but they are different. And that is why to build the institution is to look at the legal framework that operates the institution, that binds whoever comes in there. So, for instance, again, I'll go back to this example. The asset disclosure framework, declaration framework, existed before the president became president. And there is a purpose where that was inserted in the fifth schedule of the Constitution. It means that that provision is more powerful than the president. And so look at the various laws that operate the various institutions we have. They are supposed to be strengthened in adherence and not disparaged. But what has happened over time is that we prioritize the individual. So it means for people from the president ethnic stock or from the political party now, the president can do no wrong. And when you look at things from the president can do no wrong, it means the office can do no wrong. It becomes problematic. So to strengthen public trust is to strengthen institutions. And to strengthen institutions is to strengthen the legal frameworks, not in the way they've been phrased, but more in the way they've been observed.
And not just observed, but implemented, enforced.
That's what I mean.
But that is probably what doesn't happen.
And that's why I'm giving this example is very dear to me. I use this, I talk about it a lot. So that is the asset declaration framework. Because we went to court against the CCB, pointing the attention of the CCB to the provisions of the fifth schedule that says that the job of the CCB is to receive the asset declaration forms, 1, keep them, 2, 3, verify them, and 4, make it available to the public on such terms as an act of the National Assembly shall provide. And don't forget that is 1999 Constitution. The National Assembly now made the Freedom of Information Act in 2011. That applies to all public information. We went to court against the CCB. Unfortunately, we lost at the first court, at the federal court. Now we're at the Court of Appeal. And you would find it hard that a public institution that has this kind of disclosure that is meant to prevent corruption and promote governance wants to keep it to itself. That's problematic. That erodes the power of the CCB. It affects public trust in the CCB, and it also affects public trust in the individuals that occupy the various offices in Nigeria, from the president to the local government chairman.
Well, Mr. Dati, I have a question to ask you, but this comment from Charles Bolahon Olojede says, attending events is an identified role of a leader. It is part of his figurehead role in management. When the MD attends the wedding ceremony of his driver, it is not part of it is not because of jollof rice. The figurehead role is not an excuse for handling the other roles poorly. I don't know if this answers, if Charles has successfully answered that question, but the question that I want to ask you borders on history. As we round off this segment of the conversation, there are those who say that the origin of corruption or corrupt tendencies dates back into the 70s, when the era of super PAMSEX, the civil service, was jaundiced by one action of the federal government of the day. That if that could happen to a civil servant who had donated all of his life to serving government or serving the people through public office, that they don't know what is going to happen to them if they also suddenly get that kind of notice. And consequently, anyone, be it politician or civil servant, once they find themselves, they just want to insulate themselves ahead. What is your take on that as a kind of excuse for lining pockets?
Well, thank you, Ayo. I think most importantly at this point is to strengthen our leadership recruitment process. Such that we'll be able to attract the best in our leads. And that can only come about if we begin to allow the federating arms of government to operate. For instance, the outstanding judgment, Supreme Court judgment on the autonomy of local government is very key in ensuring that we attract the right kinds of people to governance. On the average, the local governments are receiving about half a 500 million to 1 billion a year. Now, if that is allowed to go to the local government, you find that people like Mr. Enang will be attracted to go to Akwa Ibom and even contest and add value to local government administration, or Mr. Oluwadari to also come and give service to the people. So most importantly is that as our democracy grows, what we have to look at is the recruitment process. How credible is it? And then the other federation units that should function. By the time you devote and divorce more powers to the local government, you attract more quality people who have a vision to be able to come and serve. So that is also very key and important. But most importantly also is that we all have a role to play. Like Mr. Anang said, it's not just about the governors or the president, even us as individuals. What are we doing? What value, what kind of advice are you giving?
Yeah, you made a valid point, Mr. Dati. But right now we're talking about the governors that collect a whole lot of money. While you were speaking, Mr. Enang was agreeing with you surreptitiously, but I can guarantee that Mr. Oluwadari is absolutely is a naysayer to what you said. Help us close this out. What should we be looking at? The president made that statement that he's not made it for the first time, and I don't know if he's not going to make it again. Today, Oyo State is commissioning the SAPZ, part of its own, contribution to the whole agricultural revolution thing. If the governors were to respond, because I haven't heard them respond, both to the allegation of the U.S. and the statement of the president, as well as the Phillips Consulting reports, what do you think should be their response?
I think the response should not come by way of sending the usual, attack dogs to go weed off. We've been living on the defensive wall forever. I think it's about taking a responsible approach to leadership by changing the game, being a lot more transparent, being a lot more accountable, and that comes from two legs. Formal open disclosure, creating the dialogue and allowing people the opportunity to ask questions, but they will ask when you publish. So take it upon yourself that I have received this amount of money, and this amount of money we've generated, this is how we have expended it. I owe it to you that every month, on the 10th day of the next month, I am going to publish across the media what we've done with it, and that automatically cascades from the micro or the nano all the way up. And that way, public trust, people can now start saying, oh, okay, he's telling us this, he's telling us that, we can see it, and he's doing. That is the only way you can, really engender that trust you're looking for. Okay. And it just starts from there. And I think it's really around transparency and accountability.
Essentially, what you have said is governors, state governments should communicate more.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Enang is a strategic thought leader and a trained economist. We also had Kolawole Oluwadare, who is a lawyer and deputy director of SERA. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And we have also had Mr. Yakubu Dati, who is a former commissioner for information in Plateau State. He's also chairman, governing council, Federal Polytechnic Ayide in Oyo State. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right. So that is public office versus public trust. If you need to, go back and take a look at this conversation. In the meantime, we'll take a short break and let's have a conversation next about empowering lifestyles through instant access and peace of mind. Stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's talk about Workman. That's an app that connects users to verified and reliable service providers, artisans, and all around them within minutes. Those who remember will know that, was it in the 80s or the 90s, that we had the Ali Must Go, the Ghana Must Go saga. one of the challenges of Nigeria at the time was that most of the artisans were not Nigerians, and we had to let them into our homes. Even now, I am aware that builders in the construction industry in particular are complaining that most of the people that they have to work with are not Nigerians as well. But one of the things we hear now is that this Workman app includes artisans, gives you service providers and artisans, including electricians, plumbers, AC and fridge repairs, carpenters, painters, auto mechanics, makeup artists, photographers, aluminum workers, barbers, hairdressers. Wait, no presenters? Anyway, let's ask the Workman CEO and founder, Mr. Tudebo. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
How have you been?
I'm doing well, doing very well.
This is quite a list.
Yes.
And I'm sure it is not exhaustive.
No.
But tell us what informed this for you.
So Workman is a project of necessity and of passion for me. And I started Workman about Workman ago out of a situation where I was out of town. I was coming from Benin, and our car got stuck, and we didn't have any help to anybody to help us. So at that point, I was like, how could this be that in the age of technology, we couldn't get anybody to actually help you find somebody with your phone? And that's when the light bulb went off. And I decided, it's time for someone to actually take this on, because one is a need, and one, I believed at the time that it would change the trajectory of not just the users, but also a lot of our domestic workers and service providers that are looking for ways to actually showcase their skills.
Interesting. And how has it been? Maybe I should first of all start by asking you what your view is on engaging artisans through such a home service platform like Workman in Nigeria.
It's been interesting. It's been rewarding. It's been good. It has its challenges. However, we feel like I said, it's something everybody needed. Today, if you're not using a platform, your only recourse to getting service providers is one, either asking your neighbors or your friends or whoever you have access to. And those people, the people they recommend, may not necessarily be the best people for that job. Even some people would say, hey, I recommend this guy, but he might give you trouble, something like that. So they're not even sure of who they're recommending. And what the app does is basically sets up a level playing field. You know who you're getting. You've seen what people say about them, because we have a review mechanism on the app, and you can show what they see. You can see pictures of the work they've done, and so you know who you're bringing. And the fact that it's from a platform, we actually guarantee that whoever is coming to your home is vetted. The person, we know who he is, we know where he is, and we also have a mechanism to track them.
Maybe by way of comparison, is this anything like Uber, Bolt? And
it's practically Uber for artisans.
Oh, Uber for artisans. So,
yes.
Give us a user journey that exemplifies how this Workman app seamlessly integrates into their schedules.
Well, you'll be a perfect example. You're here, you're working all day, but there is a problem at home, your refrigerator is not working, and everybody's relying on you to be home to get an artisan to come to the house. But if you have an app like Workman, you could be here, and maybe during breaks, you pick up your phone, you request for a refrigerator guy. It shows up at your house. We know that someone is home. The guy goes there, assesses the job, they message you, and you can get everything done within hours, and the job will be done. You don't have to wait on no one.
But is there also that security issue? I know you talked about, some kind of verification process. What's that verification process,
So before an artisan comes on board, they have to actually go through a vetting process. We get all of the relevant KYC information, the name, address, the NIN, and all the relevant things. And when you come in, you are restricted to a certain amount of job in terms of value. And apart from that, we also do what we call a secondary verification, which is when we see that you're actually taking larger value money, then we do a physical verification on you. And also, like I mentioned, the app does have a mechanism to track the location of the artisans in relation to where the customer is. So, and customer service are also involved. So there are multiple levels that checks the security challenges. And so far, so good. We've had minimal security issues. Okay. None of our customers have complained about us bringing them somebody who pose a security on them.
Well, you also talked about challenges.
Yes.
You said that there are challenges. So what are some of the challenges that you faced in building this ecosystem?
It's still ongoing, but we are getting better by the day. One of the biggest ones, I think, is lack of education for a lot of providers, understanding the nuances of how to provide a proper service. So there is a lot of hand-holding to tell them how to do this, how to, prepare themselves, how to present themselves when they get to a customer, how to write a quote, something simple as a quote, writing a proper quote. And those are the kind of things that on the side for providers who are on the platform, we're planning trainings for them so that they can learn some of these soft skills. So it's not just about you knowing how to put a table together, but how do you explain to a customer that this and this is what you're going to do to put that table together for the customer.
So two things are on my mind right now. One is the costing, and two is the feedback.
Yes.
Let's start with the costing.
Yes.
How does that work? Do you bill for the client, the artisan, or does the artisan do the billing directly?
No. The way the process is, an artisan comes to your house, to your property, and assesses the job. Once you make that request on the app, they come, assess the job. Once they assess the job, they now give you their quote. Now, everything is negotiable. So you can negotiate with the client, with the artisan, to ask them about how much you think it's worth versus what they are quoting. It's a negotiation process. Once there is an agreement made between the artisan and the client pays to Workman. And that is the guarantee that we provide to customers, because we do not release money to the provider until you say that the job is done. And if the job is not done right, there are two options. Either the customer comes back, the artisan comes back to fix the issue, or we make a refund or we get somebody else to do it. If all else fails, you're refunded your money.
Interesting. Okay, how about the feedback mechanism?
So, well, you can give feedbacks on the artisan that came to your house. Just like Uber, they come, they do a good job, ratings and reviews. You can write reviews once your job is completed. And if the artisan did bad, you write how you feel about the job. And also you can definitely review us on the App Store and give all this. So, but the feedback has been pretty good so far.
What are some of the, forgive me for saying, I don't want to be a messenger of doom, or a naysayer, but hey, this is the world.
Yes.
Anything can happen, and as you said, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So, God forbid that you find a situation where a service provider behaved criminally, so to speak, through your app.
Yes.
What are the likely measures, particularly when the client is really peeved, possibly even arrested? The fellow and said, I got this fellow from Workman. Do you have any intervention in that?
We do. We allow for, if a service provider performs criminally, we allow for full criminal prosecution of that artisan, they are automatically expelled from the platform, and we take responsibility for whatever, as long as it came from the platform. And the caveat is the customer went through the platform to perform the job, because we've had situations where clients also try to circumvent the platform only to run into issues and expect the platform to take responsibility.
Wait a minute. How does that work? Give us an example.
An example is having a service provider come and tell the service provider, let's go offline.
Oh.
Yes, and tell, hey, I'm going to give you less money for this job if you get rid of the platform, which is common. And we see that all the time. And what we've consistently saw is the minute they go off the platform, that's when the recipe for disaster starts, because then no one is held to account. We've had people give service providers close to 500,000 naira and they have absconded, and they now come back to the platform to say, hey, I can't find this guy and all of that. But we always try to educate them that the reason you came to the platform is for that security, to make sure that you're covered. And we provide that. And for the most part, all of the service providers that have come through the platform, and if everybody follows the process, it has been successful.
Okay, just before I continue,
yes,
give us a website or maybe the app or whatever it is that people can.
So you can go on the App Store, Play Store, and type in WRKman or word, Workman.
So Workman without the O?
Without the O.
Okay.
Yes, or you can go to our website, workmanapp.com, or you can send us a message on WhatsApp. We have links to WhatsApp from our social media at WorkmanHQ, and we are everywhere. If you search Workman anywhere, it'll come up as WRK Man.
Okay, just to be clear, it's Workman without the letter O.
Yes.
And so if you check now, this is what you will find. I can see workmanapp.com, and it is right there. So people can actually go now and download on App Store and on Play Store.
Yes.
Okay. So now the question, a number of days, a vehicle, some people will remember. You probably remember it as well. The vehicle is called Citroën. It was in the 70s, I think. It's the only vehicle at the time where you turned your steering to the left, the headlights focused to the left.
Yes.
You turned your vehicle to the right.
I remember that.
The headlamps went to the right. So raising the standard. So those who say that the app, okay, so that's the website right there on your screen. And if you need help finding service providers around you, information is right there. Of course, you can also access that site on your phone so that you can just tap on both, either any of those two black boxes, and they take you to the App Store. So it raises the question then that a number of people said that Citroën was a vehicle made for a future that it came before.
Yes.
Okay. It came before its time. Is this app coming before its time?
Not at all.
It's just coming.
It's actually the perfect app for this time. Because as you know, we are in the technology age. No one is afraid of online stuff any longer. Well, maybe some people are still skeptical, but you find that it's just not the most effective way to get things done these days is actually online. So the minute you're able to get things done, it's faster, it's easier, you don't have to worry, there is a lot of security around it. So Workman is it's not for the future at all. We're here to stay. We have thousands of people that have downloaded and are on the platform. We have hundreds of requests a day. Wow. And people are seeing the value. And a lot of people have had a terrible experience of finding artisan. And for those that are experiencing those things, and it's a continuous process. Everybody experiences it, and that's why I said it was a needed app. Okay. And so, yeah.
Okay, is it just domesticated to Lagos or? No,
we are currently in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, Owerri. However, we are rapidly expanding. So you'll be seeing more of us through the country very soon.
So there is someone watching right now, listening to you right now, and wants to register on this platform so that he can also get automated requests for his services. Yes. How do they also get on?
So we have a separate app called Workman Pro, Workman Provider. And that is the one that, just like Uber has Uber and Uber drivers, what the drivers use, we have Workman Provider, and that's the one that the providers go into, put up all their information, their KYC is done on the app, and that's the one that they use to run their process.
Okay, so this one is for users, this is for providers as well.
Yes, there is a provider app
on the screen. Okay.
Yes.
I'm assuming that the providers have to pay some money before they get on?
Yeah, there is a subscription process. It's very cheap.
Okay.
There's a registration process for $3,000.
Okay.
And you can choose, that's just the basic, and you can choose to subscribe monthly or 3 months, or there's another level of subscription. So yes,
what jobs are not covered? Does this cover cooks?
It covers catering. There are catering service.
Okay.
We have many services. Obviously, there are some we still don't have. Over time, we are adding more services as we find them. As a matter of fact, a lot of people come to us, how come my service is not on the platform? We just tell everybody to.
I can see that on the screen. You can see find help, find providers, and then find customers, and set your schedule. What does that mean?
Yes. The provider can pick out what their schedule is. Basically, if you only want to be seen from 12 p.m. to 6.
Okay.
And users can also, when they're making a request, if you want a provider to come to your house 2 days later or 3 days later, you can schedule the job, and then 24 hours to that time, you get reminders as to when this thing would happen.
Interesting. So do you have any partnerships on this project, or is just?
We're working on partnerships. We have some hotels that we're servicing. We have some other things. There is a partnership that we're working on right now with Airtel, just to support Airtel in the installation of all of their ODUs.
Okay.
That is ongoing now, and some other potential ones that we're cooking up. So.
Okay, so. I know you have stated your expansion plans, but do you want to speak a little more in-depthly about it? Say in a particular state now, there are no Workman service providers, or there is a particular service sector that is not already covered by the Workman app. What are the future plans?
So the future plan is really, number one, to cover the country. That is our goal. And once we are able to cover the country, our next goal is to go into Ghana, Kenya. We're looking at sort of South Africa and possibly London. Those are our aspirations. But for now, the goal is to cover the country.
I hope you know what is going on in Ghana. Just to be clear, now.
We will, we always find challenges, but we'll work around it.
We can only wish you the best, Mr. Eboho. Thank you so much for your time this morning. This is actually quite ingenious. The Workman app connecting users to verified and reliable service providers, artisans around them within minutes. And we can only wish you the best.
Thank you
so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Today, Eboho is CEO, founder, Workman. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, when we return in this next conversation, we want to look at a population in this country that numbers more than 35 million people.
How much attention are they getting? When we return. Thank you again. Over 35 million Nigerians live with one form of disability or the other. That's more than the entire populations of Ghana and Togo, as at the last count. Combined, I mean. But how well are we including them in national life? Are they able to go to school, get a job, access a hospital, or even use public transport like everyone else? A new report by Project Enable Africa and the National Commission for Persons with Disability offers a sobering answer. Despite having a National Disability Act since 2019, it's 6 years ago, and a 5-year deadline to implement its provisions, most states in Nigeria are still dragging their feet. Out of 36 states, only 23 have even passed any disability law, and just 15 of them have set up actual agencies to enforce those laws. In fact, some of the most resource-rich states, like the Rivers, Delta, Bayelsa, they scored among the lowest in disability inclusion. Meanwhile, Lagos, Nasarawa, and Adamawa are leading the pack, though still far from perfect. This morning, we're not just talking about disability. We're talking about dignity, about justice, and about inclusion. What kind of Nigeria are we building if millions are being shut out of schools, jobs, hospitals, and even public life simply because of one disability or the other? The law is in place. Question is, where's the will? Let's discuss this morning with two people joining us. Ademi Bolanle Adeshida is Advocacy Lead, Project Enable Africa. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
And we also have Mr. Olushola Adeyefa, who is co-founder, Ability Impact Center. He's a disability advocate. Thank you for your time today.
It's a pleasure being here.
Madam, 35 million Nigerians living with one form of disability or the other. That's more than, if memory serves me right, the population of the Nigerians that voted at the last elections. What are we missing here?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So we have different clusters of disability, and I would highlight some of them. We have people who are visually impaired, and we have people who are hard of hearing or deaf, but the accepted term is deaf. We have people who are dwarfism. We have people from the albinism clusters. We have people who have physical disability, and we have people who are mobility impaired. And all these categories of people, they are humans. And they are, we term them to be vulnerables, but all these different categories of people, some, for example, if a deaf person is here now, we might not even know that he's deaf, except when you start signing, it's just seated, and then you just feel like, oh, this. But we might not, if the person did not show the sign, show the sign, or maybe sign to you, like to let you know that or something. If the person is just seated and we're just looking, the person is a disability, but we have plenty of them, or we have different clusters of people. You won't even know that the person is a person with disability. You just think, oh, this person is.
Even for a visually impaired person, most people now wear sunglasses even in a dark room. People wear sunglasses in clubs, so you won't even know.
No, yeah. And then for the visually impaired clusters, we have different categories. Oh. There are some that are totally blind. We have some people with low vision. We have some people that are partially sighted. However, the older you grow, the lower the vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Adeyefa, I know you have been a part of this whole disability advocacy for a while. Maybe you want to start by giving us an insight into your journey into empowering the disability community in the country. What are the things that Nigeria has done which you have contributed to, and why you think there is such a huge gap between the laws and policies and the implementation?
Thank you for having me. It's very critical that we understand what Ademi Bolale said earlier, that people, in spite of the fact that they look normal in some cases, they have disability. But some of us have obvious disability. Because I use a wheelchair, it's very easy for people to know that I am disabled, while there are so many other people that they are not obvious, but they are disabled. But for my story is the first thing I found out when I became disabled at the age of 18 due to a road traffic accident, Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, bad road, of course. Then the road was terrible, but it was at the point where in my life I was moving from secondary school to the university. To the glory of God, I still got the admission into UFM. And one of the first things I realized while on campus at Obafemi Awolowo University was there were architectural barriers, and then there were attitudinal barriers. So people will react to you because of your disability in a certain way, and people will react to you because of a disability, either positive or negative, right? And in most cases, it starts from the family. You know, your family are sympathetic, but they don't know how to help you, right? So you don't have empathy from within the family. They are just sympathetic until you begin to consult, you know, counselors and psychologists. And then architectural barrier, you have the staircases to the lecture rooms. You know, you have the restrooms and bathrooms that are not accessible to wheelchair users. You have even some halls, you can't use them. Some road paveways, you can't even get on them. Then the public transport system, the attitude of the transport owners, the buses owners. So a lot of it, even in the marketplace, and then people see you as an academic. You're carrying your books and all. You're going from one location to the other, and they still want to give you a token, maybe 50 naira, 100 naira. You know, so those attitude of just classifying you as a charity person. And that's why we now understood the fact that there should be a difference between charity model and social model. Charity model feel that people with disabilities should be given fish, but social model believe that they should be taught how to fish. Right. So the charity model is still very large in the country, and that's one of our major problems. So from the family believes that because you are in this family, we can't throw you out. But we only have to learn how to give you fish.
Okay. The question that I'm asking, and this is actually quite moving, because a good number of people listening to you and watching you right now will just, some are playing in their heads how you have coped over the years. But, you know, the question now is, I mean, as I said, you have been a part of the process of creating disability laws, policies, and all those things. Tell us about that journey as well, and what the inhibitions have been, and why we have such a gap.
So the United Nations came up with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability in 2006, and that's one of those things I studied while on campus. And that particular law by the United Nations, the convention, was meant to be signed in by all the member states of the United Nations. Nigeria, being a signatory, did not domesticate that law, that convention, for many years. So what we did in 2007, 2008, 2009 was to work with some of the government officials, some senators, House of Rep members, who supported us to put out a document as a bill in the National Assembly. So we prepared that bill, we submitted it to them, and they promoted it, they sponsored it in the National Assembly. And that lasted for almost 10 years, about 12 years, before it became signed into law. right? So a lot of organizations of persons with disabilities, non-governmental organizations were involved in several advocacy, several campaigns. Some had to go on the street to protest, some had to lobby, just to ensure that we got that bill passed. However, that was at the national level. In some other states, the bill was passed into law by some state governors. I remember in 2012, it was signed into law by the then governor, Raji Babatunde Fashola, in Lagos State in 2012. And he established an agency, which is now the Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs. In the north, we have a few states, I think Kano State and Kaduna State also had that law signed into before the national government eventually got that bill signed into law under the late President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, that law, the way it's meant to function or operate is to give people a moratorium kind of 5 years, to say within the 5 years, let everybody adjust to this law by making your buildings accessible, by making sure in your employability there's a certain percentage of people that are employed in the organization that have disability, that's ensuring that every aspect of that law has been incorporated into the society for 5 years. And after that 5 years, we cannot come into full execution of the law. So as it is now, it's not 5 years after that. And that's why we came up with this report to see what has happened in 5 years of the president signing it into law in 2019. And then we're in 2025. What has happened as people started implementing? How far have we gone? How many states have worked with that law? How many government agencies, corporate agencies have worked with that law? So we looked at, in this report, we looked at education, what's happening with the law, employment, what's the law doing, health, social protection, accessibility. So what is the law doing? So that's where we are today with that report. And what we have found out is there is still a lot of gap. A very huge gap. It's like we have not even started. And the implication of that is we cannot take litigation. We cannot say we're going to test the law in the courts to see how effective that law is. That is where we are today.
Thank you so much. And Madam, the fact that, 5 years after, if the law was signed in 2019, once it is signed into law, the moment the president puts a dot at the end of his signature, it's a law. Yeah. So this law is 6 years old, practically. Why? I'm even lost for words. So many questions and I don't even know how to put it. Why do we still have such a gap? There have been advocacy. Is it because we don't have enough information? The practitioners of the law don't have enough information? Is it because they don't have enough communication? Is it because understanding is inadequate? 35 million Nigerians is not a small figure. What do you think is going on? Why do you think we have such a gap?
Okay, so I often say this. We are not there yet. However, there's improvement. And we noticed that as of 2019, during elections, let me use election as an example. During elections, they'll just announce elections and then everybody move on. But now, after that, post-elections, during announcements, we find a small cubicle where sign language interpreters would always sign whatever during counting and the necessary things. And aside election, everybody's now taking measures. If you have an office space and there's no elevator or something, people are taking those measures. And not because we don't want accessibility, but the major thing is the understanding. Everybody just people believe that, don't let me use everybody, people believe that since it's wheelchair, so let's just have ramp. We don't want to understand the type of ramp needed. People just have ramp and not know that there are some ramps that are not even accessible. You can even just have them as for fashion. And then when the person who needs the ramp wants to wheel,
it's too high.
It's too high, it's slippery, it's too steep, and different things. But we have the ramp. So the major thing is the understanding. We don't really understand what the law entails. So it takes advocacy efforts from OPDs, from organizations of persons with disability, and from the whole community of persons with disability, to let them understand that, okay, this is what is needed. This elevator, you have an elevator, right? But if, as a visually impaired person, how can I access without even needing anybody to help me? If I press 1, how will I know that this is 1? Is the elevator keys, does it have a sound that comes back when I press, okay, stop or something? Is there braille? Is it accessible for me? Is it something that, as somebody with albinism, can the letters be boldly written so that even with my low vision as somebody with albinism, I can read it, I can understand. I don't need any extra effort. So the main thing is understanding. People understand what does the law entail. It's not just people ask like, oh, there's a law, let's move on with it or something. But major thing is understanding what is inside the law and how to do it.
Now, listening to you now, someone who has to sign the checks, who has to calculate the cost of anything, I'm sure you will also understand this, will say, okay, so we have to not just buy a ramp, build a ramp, we have to build a specific kind of ramp. We would have thought to just build one short one, but this one is talking about it, and it has to be longer. That is more cost. Okay, even our elevator does not have braille. Now I have to create one that has a braille and all those things. They'll be putting figures to it. Don't you think, is it also to do with, do you think some of the gaps in the implementation, do you think it could have anything to do with costs as well for some of these organizations?
I won't agree with costs, because if you do the right thing right, you've spent the money you need at that time. If I have a ramp and the ramp is not accessible for Mr. Shola now, that means it's a waste of money. If he comes to my office or if he comes see me and is not able to wheel himself in, it's a waste of money. So I have to do something that works for him. That's accessibility. For him to come to my house, if he wants to come to my house or maybe to our office now, he should be able to come without, oh, let me carry you, let me lift you or something. So, and if I have maybe, oh, Mr. Shola is my friend and he comes to my office, let me just have this thing due to cost or something, and it still did not serve the purpose that it's supposed to serve for him, I will definitely one day I will still have to build that ramp, if so far as it's coming to that office. So it's still not, to me, if you do the right thing right, it's very cost effective.
But 5 years is a long time.
Yeah.
So now, Mr. Adefas, just spoke about testing the laws. Yes. Do you think it is time for us to begin to take some of these organizations, particularly states?
Yeah.
Because it's the state government that's supposed to take the lead, so that the private sector and the organizations in the states will also take a cue. Do you think it is time for us?
Yeah, it is time.
Okay.
It is time.
So who is going to take the lead?
So it's actually supposed to be the government, and that's the work of the agencies. So once there's a federal law and there's a commission, and the goal is for each state to adopt the law. And once they adopt the law to their own state level, there's supposed to be an agency that works for persons with disability.
And enforces that law.
And that agency is supposed to work with all ministries to make sure that that law is being enforced. And once the law is enforced, if the states do their things and the ministries and each ministries are compliant, then it will be easy for private. Then the states will be able to hold private responsible that you did not do this, your office is not this. Hold different agencies or different stuff responsible, but it's more of the state.
Mr. Adefa, again, I have too many questions, but I have very little time now. Where do you propose we go from here as far as this issue is concerned? Again, 35 million Nigerians, that's not a small number.
So this report is just a starting point, the state of disability inclusion. It shows how we've included people with disabilities in Nigeria. And the good news from that report, from our findings of that report, is we have some states that have adopted the law, and a few of them have agencies, about 15 of them have agencies. Not all of them are functional, but some of them are very functional, like Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs is very functional, headed by capable hands. a lawyer is heading Lagos State, and that's a third or fourth person that will be heading that. And then the National Commission of Persons with Disability is. And like she said, we need to strengthen those agencies through the law, right, and fund them adequately for them to take on this. And some of the things I realize some of these agencies are doing that are quite incredible is to partner with other MDAs, ministries, department and agencies to work with them instead of getting more resources. So they're working in Lagos State with LASTRA, for instance, with other agencies to ensure that residents are identified as persons with disability and they are made provisions for. So a landlord can make sure that if you have a tenant that is disabled, there are things you can do to support them. So this is how to go, strengthening these agencies, and then people with disabilities can also approach these agencies with their requests and their plights, and then continue to project the potentials of persons with disability. We need all the support. One of the best things that has happened to persons with disabilities is the support of the media. The media has welcomed, supported, told stories, and we need a lot more of that as well. When these stories are told, when these issues are discussed, then we can also have more people have that understanding, because the truth of the matter is people don't know. As long as there is no ignorance before the law, you can't prove to be ignorant. Then we also have that obligation to ensure that people know what to do. So you may want to create a ramp, like she said, and you don't know the quality of ramp. Even on the roads, we have some of those ramps, as beautiful as they are, that are not usable for people with disability. So these are the orientation that we need to continue to carry forward to ensure that we get to that point where more people in our society are included in employment and all the likes.
It raises a question about what she said. Yeah. Thankfully, I know you're also in the communication industry. How do we foster this understanding in a way that, because some of the people, as she also pointed out, and I'm sure you're aware as well, some of the people who have to work for disability causes are not living with disabilities themselves. But then there are those who have to sign some checks that do not have the adequate understanding to be able to champion the cause of the disabled. So how do we get them to understand? How do we sustain that understanding, communication in a way for them to understand it progressively and sustainably?
So this report is one of those things where we're doing to project that understanding, tell people about what we have done, how far we've come. The media is also part of that support we get from every aspect of it to communicate it. We continue to discuss it. And most importantly, for people that are at the helms of affairs, that are taking those decisions, they can also reach out and consult. There are people you can ask questions. You can ask who is in charge of this, who can we talk to help us to do this better. So for corporations, for governments, like United Nations said one year that there is nothing about us without us. So you can't talk about persons with disabilities without including persons with disabilities, because it is them that knows where the shoe pinches, and they will be able to tell you that this is where the shoes are pinching us, and this is how you can help us to solve the problem. So the people at the ends of affairs need to take that bold step to reach out to people with disabilities. There are a lot of us that are educated and informed, and we can share, even at pro bono level, to say this is what you can do to make the society better for us.
Oh, so she is right when she talked about pro bono.
Yeah, of course, she is very right. So we are not doing it pro bono because we don't need the resources as well, but we're doing it for those millions out there who do not have a voice, who would come out at one point or the other to need this thing, and that's why.
Just one last one. So just so the listener and viewer understands, when you talked about charity causes as opposed to social models, charity model as opposed to social model, how many professionals are living with disability from what you know?
A lot.
Who are in regular employment and who are doing very, very well?
So I would say a lot, but then realistically, if you look at that percentage in terms of data, we have less than 1% of even that 35 million that are really professional. And the reason are not far-fetched. Access to education is tough. Good education is expensive. I went to Obafemi University. I had architectural and attitudinal barriers. Getting employment, the nepotism is still there, right? So if you do not know how to break those barriers, or you're not privileged to break those barriers, I would say the privileged persons with disability are still very small. And what we do when we now become supposed privileged persons with disability is to now fight the cause of other people, to ensure that we show them how to, and also pave way for them to come in.
I think
that is the most
we need to make a movie on how you got here over all these years. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Well, we've talked about the 2024 State of Disability Inclusion Report. Thank you so much again. Mr. Olushola DFI is co-founder, Ability Impact Center. He's a disability advocate. Thank you so much for your time as well. As Ademi Bolanle Adeshida, who's advocacy lead, Project Enable Africa. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you too.
So when we return, there's this thing. I've been concerned about it for a while, and my producer as well, talking about parenting, particularly of teenagers. Let's talk about that when we return again. Thank you so much for your time this morning. 1 minute, they're your cuddle buddy. The next minute, you're the most annoying person alive. And let's not even talk about the grunts, the slamming of doors, rolling eyes. What if I told you that those moments could actually lead to deeper trust, laughter, and yes, high fives, mom and dad. Today, let's talk about how you build real connection with your teenager. Not just rules and routines, but relationship. How do you stay close without coming off as clingy? How do you guide without feeling like a dictator? Oloruntobi Adebola joins us this morning to discuss this. She is a teen mentor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me, sir.
I have been on this journey for a while. Talking about the need for parents to bond with their teenagers in particular. My fear, my concern is in another 10 years, the 15-year-old will be 25. The 17-year-old will be 27. If it's female, either you don't marry or you never marry. So I am also not unaware, and you may want to educate us, how many teenagers have held, maybe I should put it better, how many parents have become enemies of their children, directly or surreptitiously? That's what this whole conversation is about. How precarious is the situation, in your opinion, from what you know?
Thank you so much for having me. So I would call myself a practitioner because I deal with teenagers. I don't really deal with parents. I deal with, so it'll be good to see from my eyes, how they relate. And the truth of the matter is that there is a phase. And it's a phase. It's not a long phase. And that's why parents must know to weather the storm. Because it will not happen, it will not be forever. At some point, they turn around and they get it. But for that teen stage, they're not getting it. And so parents need to know how to communicate differently. Why? Because you don't want to mess up the relationship, and then when you get to the end, there is no relationship. So that's the first thing, is that parents need to understand that it's not a long phase, but it is a phase that they need to learn how to walk through. Because these teenagers, the truth of the matter is, I think that the way life is that they decide, oh, I'd rather be with my friends than with my parents. Now, parents should not be angry because I think that's what it is. It's a reaction. Why don't you want me? Why are you pushing me away? What exactly is it about me that you don't? No, parents, like I say now, I pick my battles. You don't argue over everything. Why? Because you will know the ones to argue about. Teenagers
with the children, with the teenagers.
Yes, with the teenagers. Teenagers. I think the challenge with many parents is that they want to talk about everything. Oh, you didn't do this. You didn't. I was speaking with someone today, and I said, "See, once you want to communicate with your teenager, let them know what you want done, and leave it." Many times you want to say, I want it done right now. That's where the challenge is. Because if you want to legislate when, it becomes a problem and then you go head on with them. But if parents know that they want something done in 5 hours, they can start 5 hours before. And then let them know, see, this must happen at this time. So factor in all of the moving around, and then they will not smile and say, oh, I want to. No, they won't want to do it. But if you have communicated firmly that you are the one to do it, and then you give it time, it will get done.
Now, let me ask you this. And a good number of parents will probably see this. I've had cause to talk to one or two parents as well, where the son, maybe like a teenager, in the second half of the teens, if I can use that term, is shouting on the parent, maybe a mother, okay? There's just that back and forth. Some kind of disrespect between parents and their teens or even young adults. In this case, let's even say the child is disrespecting the mother or disrespecting the father. What is there for the parents to understand about that phase? You say it's a phase. Is that part of it?
It's part of it, but it's also important for parents not to allow it get there. So parents need to watch. You know, if you know that, look at this simple issue that I mentioned. Oh, I want this place cleaned up. You're the one to clean it up. Now, even that can get to a point where the child starts shouting if you allow it to fester. So it's important for parents to understand where to push and where not to push.
Wait, madam, wait. So when my son or my daughter is shouting at me, I should be understanding. So
my point,
I was not raised like that.
And that's another issue. We were raised differently. They are raised differently. And you know that the movies they watch, the series that they watch, they are our undoing. And we must understand that. And by the time they start shouting at you, number one, it's embarrassing. Number two, that's your child, the baby that you carried. So you never want it to get there. So parents need to be intuitive in sensing when they are pushing the child to that end. And when you notice a change, drop it. Don't push it. Because if you push it, you will hear it. And like you said, you will not like it. And you know, it's when people see that, they will blame you because they will think, oh, you didn't train your child well. But if you're watchful, there will be signs. And those signs you should not ignore.
Now, research shows that teens still care deeply about their parents' approval. They just want to feel respected and not managed. How do you see that playing out when, on the one hand, the teen cares deeply about their parents' approval, but on the other hand, they are not showing it. In fact, they are showing that they do not want this. They don't want this approval. They are showing disrespect towards their parents.
Yeah, they just want to be respected and not managed. Now, parents need to understand that the teenager is no longer a child. It's really important. So it's not, so what I said about adding time to your time, that's part of respect. That's part of management. We need to get this done. You're the one to do it. Get it done by this time, and then you leave them. You are not micromanaging and wondering, but I told you, but I told you. But at some point, you might need to keep reminding them, because that's another thing that parents might not be able to afford, because honestly speaking, they do forget. And then it's the deadline, and they still have not done it. So that's something that parents need to watch out for.
How do you think we can create a... Because, so you say that parents have to watch out for some of these things. How do you think parents usher their children, their teenagers, to that point before they become teenagers, or when or how? Help us understand how it ever gets to the point where the children, the teenagers, are seemingly disrespectful to their parents.
So, I think parents need to watch out for the fact that the teenager is no longer a child. So they need to understand that the conversations, the manner of speaking has to change. If it changes, then the child will understand, this parent respects me, but they need me to get, and that's what you said about parents needing, teenagers wanting their parents' approval. It's so true. Because they still want you by their side. It's just that it should not be all the time. It should also be helpful. It should be beneficial. So that's why parents need to understand that as you go on with these teenagers, help them understand, if you need me, I'm here. But then parents also need to understand that the things that they are fed with, the shouting, for instance, is learned with the things that they watch. You know, because for us, we did not watch a lot of things. So we could not even have dared it. But they have seen a lot of shouting, parents shouting and all of that. So they might even want to try it out. Or it might have gone into their subconscious. So I think that it's better for parents to have these, give them instructions, see how they respond at home. Maybe that's the place to see whether they can actually push back. And then when they push back, it's important for, so I called it a pushback. It's not shout, it's a pushback. But parents they should not allow it slide. But they shouldn't pick it up immediately. Give it time. And sit with the child and say, what exactly is this? Teenagers don't like conversations. And that's why parents should be, patience is your key. Wait for them to cool off and cool down and then ask, what was that? And then they start stuttering and stammering. That's you communicating. Because the next time it's about to happen, they'll remember that conversation, and that's what it is.
There's something that I would also love you to speak to. You said something very, very germane, that we were raised differently.
True.
One of the things that's made the difference is that when we were growing up, TV opened at 4 p.m. In the days when our parents were growing up, there was no TV. Today, TV
opens, it doesn't close.
It doesn't close, one. Secondly, you can carry it around.
Yeah.
And there are several other options. And children being experimental, they would want to try out anything they see on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, and the rest of that.
Yeah.
How much of that do parents need to understand about about the impact of such on how successful or otherwise their parenting is?
So this is huge. It's huge because it's not just that it's available, it's also available in a form that is not judgmental. They sit down and they watch it, and they are schooled by it. Meanwhile, when you come talking, it looks like you're judging. It looks like you're a broken record. So parents need to understand the dynamics. Because, you know, whether or not you expose them to it, they will have that information. Even if they are not directly exposed to it, they have friends and they have conversations, and those conversations lead to them experiencing it. So parents need to understand that that is the competition. And so if that is your competition, you can't afford to come off as the enemy. Because if you come off as the enemy, I don't know if you have noticed that they also have a good way of shutting you out. You will be talking, but you don't know that they are not listening. They can't hear you, which is very frustrating for parents. Because, you know, we would sit down and the parents will talk and you cry, and there's no such thing happening. So it's important for parents to understand that it's easy for them to shut you out. And so you don't want to come off as in a negative way, because what you want to do is to compete favorably with all of that social media. And that's
compete with social media. That's doctorate degree program.
No, but you know that parents have an edge. You gave birth to them. They know you. They love you.
Yeah.
But it's somewhere far away. And that's why the interactions will enable them, when they hit the crossroads, to remember and to make the right decisions.
I think it's also important, madam, to point out, to emphasize this point that is being made. Unfortunately, and this is one of the becauses, many parents employ social media to co-parent with them.
Yeah, right from
very small.
And so they become...
Secondly, many parents expect the worship centers, the mosques, the churches, wherever else, to co-parent with them. Parents expect teachers in the schools to co-parent with them. Unfortunately, some parents expect, directly or indirectly, their house helps and all of that, to co-parent with them. Some of their colleagues and friends also co-parent with them. The challenge here is the philosophy may not be the same.
Yeah, mixed messages.
What are the things that parents need to understand in that? How do parents streamline all of this deluge of information, and particularly as concerning how it affects the parenting and how they can bond with their own children?
I think it's important for parents to know what they believe. Let the values be clear for parents themselves. And I think that's where the challenge is. We take information from everywhere. Oh, this one works. Okay, let's try. This one works. Let's try. This one works. But it's 10 years down the line that you now say, it was bad, or it was bad. But it's too late. These children are unfortunately, teenagers also see through parents. So when we are not sincere, they see through. And that's the challenge. We must understand what the value system of the home must be clearly delineated and communicated in, let everyone know what we stand for. And so when they get this information, they need to check it against the values that they have put up. And if it works, yes. If it doesn't work, we go back and say, child of mine.
It still goes back to one question, the question of auditing this information. But let me quickly give this information to let you know that we are going live to Adamawa State right now for a PDP rally happening at Ganye local government area. Don't worry, this is just for our DSTV audience. Other platforms are active, and of course you can always re-watch this anytime else, just in case you go off. So you can always go back to our YouTube channel. The YouTube is still very, very much active. This information is only for our DSTV audience. So it goes back, madam, to auditing these processes. Do you think there should be a kind of mechanism that parents create by which they will say, you know what, let's evolve from when you come back, when we get together, you've taken information from here from here, sit down, what did you learn today, and all of those things. Do you think that will help parents to align or realign their children from all of the deluge of information they've gotten to the real values that they believe?
I think it would help parents, but the question is, will it help the teenagers? Will it be welcome? You know, because I don't know if you have noticed, but teenagers also don't like talking a lot. And so for you to elicit information, you know, so if you say, let's sit down every day, that's pushing it. At some point, it's like, you know, so you also need to understand the design.
So how do you get teenagers to want to talk to their parents by themselves and not necessarily being called?
Well, I think parents need to understand that they need to know what's happening in their children's lives, the different heads, and then maybe as they go in, okay, so vacation, where this is vacation season, okay, so what are your plans? What do you want to do? You know, those short conversation times give you information for the future. And so you ask questions. So when they give you all of that information, you keep asking, okay, so how is that going? Oh, so what exactly? You know, because you know them, you love them, you understand, you know, so let's just keep the conversation lines going. They're watching a particular series, for instance. Okay, so what exactly is this about? Tell me about. You don't need to sit down and watch it just because you want to parent them. But let them give you information, and when they give you information, then you can query, okay, so what's this about?
I think it might also be a good point, madam, to ask this. Do you think parents are sometimes presumptuous about their children? I ask, in other words, do you think parents underestimate the intelligence of their children or the knowledge that the children have?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time. All the time, because, you know, you think you know what they know. So I do a lot of questioning now, you know, so that I know what you know. Let me know what you know. I won't tell you. I need to know what you know, because it's safe. And of course, it will get them talking as well. So tell me what you know, and then ask a few questions, see what is there, rather than wanting to. I think parents, it's just because of time. They think, let me just get this done. But you know that this is a lifetime, and the challenge is that in a few years, they're gone. So this is time worth spending, just to understand, okay, so how do you think your friend, you talked about a friend the other day, how is he doing? What, you know, so that's why I said understand what our values are, and then ask questions along those values. If you want them to pick up, you know, because many teenagers don't share, they are not, you know, they don't give easily. So give conversations around that, so that they would know, in this house, we love, in this house we share. Whatever it is that you're wanting to sell, ensure that, you know, you're clear and consistent.
Now, this might be a bit strange. We know that children will always be children. They will always offend. But do you think sometimes parents offend their children and they should consequently apologize to their children? If you agree, what's the impact of that on the children?
So that's the only way to show when we're wrong, you need to ask for forgiveness.
So it's a mentoring program.
It's a mentoring program. I can be wrong too as a parent. And so I apologize for this. But then also go ahead to say, but this is why I did what I did. So that you understand it's not out of place for me to have done. If you had not hidden that information from me, I would have had all the facts and I would have acted differently. So it's important and that's how to be real. That's how to be real, because you understand that this child, you want the teenagers to go out and act as you would want them to. And so being real with them at this age is the only way to mirror, okay, so this is what I want. You can be wrong, you need to apologize. But when I'm wrong, I will also apologize, because that's what people do. When people err, they ask for forgiveness, and that's what it is.
There's also this saying, do as I do, don't do as I say, or vice versa.
It doesn't work.
You didn't allow me to ask my question, sir.
It doesn't work, because it's what you do that they will do. It's not what you say.
So the children can see through the smoke.
They can see through. You are so transparent. They are so transparent. Even things that the other spouse is not seeing, the children are seeing it. You know, because they watch movies. They are intuitive.
So, do you think parents are aware of this?
So that's us telling them. They need to know. They are not fools. Teenagers are not fools.
Now, from your work, from your mentoring processes and all, with what you have heard from teenagers, do you think parents know their teenagers?
Not enough. Not enough. But you know, because I work in a church setting, it's the prayer that, you know, they would forgive and they would outgrow all of the hurts and still, you know, love as they should. But if we're praying in the church setting, what would happen in the secular setting? That's where revenge, you know, happens. And unfortunately for parents, by the time they turn around, you are too old, and they are now the ones in their prime.
Oh dear, we have a long way to go.
Yes,
my fear is always the future. What I tell my kids, your future is going to need you. So parents really have to build the kind of children that can mentor others in the future and not be the ones responsible for a bad society.
And sow seeds that, you know, they also don't want to harvest.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Toby Adebola is a teen mentor. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Grateful.
When we return, we'll teach you how to dance, among other things. Stay with us. She broke a world record dancing for 55 straight hours. But that was just the beginning. From the stage to the studio and now the boardroom, today's guest has redefined what it means to move with purpose. You know, move. She's a dancer, choreographer, fitness coach, entrepreneur, a proud holder of a doctorate degree, not just in title, but in impact. She's mentored thousands, pioneered platforms for creatives, and is now marking 25 years of excellence with a vision that goes far beyond rhythm and routine. Please welcome with me the dance queen herself, the trailblazing, record-shattering, ever-inspiring. Wait. There's a name you people know. Wait, I'm coming. Kafayat Oluwatoyin Shafau Ame, popularly known as Dr. Kafi.
Thank you.
Sorry, there's no drum roll here.
Yes, I'm doing stuff. As I'm clapping for myself.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
25 years.
Yeah.
Picking where they're born 25 years, don't marry you.
Yeah, Bio.
First of all, you know the normal question is, how has it been?
Yes.
When you look back 25 years ago, I can boldly say you didn't start dancing 25 years ago. You started before that.
Yes.
But you probably just made it a thing from 25 years ago. How far back does dancing as a passion go for you?
I would say, thank you for that question. I'll say it went as far back as primary school, because I've always wanted to participate. I am a very active kid,
Obviously.
So I always want to participate in anything that just allows the human mind and body express itself. So when my parents say, what club activity do you want to do? I think I nearly signed up for almost everyone. I was in Red Cross, I was in Brownies, I was in Igbo cultural group. And sometimes they'll tell you can only pick one. So I'm like, don't worry, I'll do this particular term. I might be in Igbo. The next term, I want to try out Yoruba cultural group. And it was really like that. But I never thought it was going to be like a career. It was just something that helped me find myself. That's to give it a very light summary. And that's what it has been. I never ventured into it, so I didn't go to school for dance. So I know the only thing I had with ballet or formal training was ballet when I was in primary school at Chrisland, and we performed at the Unilag Auditorium, and that was my very first thing with a stage, like a proper stage, because the auditorium was pretty new at that time. It was like, oh my goodness, a main stage, seeing the curtains open and close. So I was like 8 years old then. And that was the first ever moment I had to see a stage for dance. But I still never thought it was a career thing. I was still on the journey of figuring out what I wanted to do in life. So I kept changing profession. 1 minute is lawyer, because that was kind of informed from the external forces around me in the family. Like, you talk a lot, you should be a lawyer. And I was like, okay, since I talk a lot, maybe I should be a lawyer. But as I grew up, I was finding purpose more as a child. I just felt like I wanted to matter to my environment. And I was like, what can I be? Matter. Then something struck me when I finished primary school. I was like, I want to be something that the country is missing. So I want to fill a void. But I didn't know what that was. So fast forward secondary school, I never danced throughout secondary school. Nobody in my secondary school knew me for dance. They knew me for soccer. They knew me for sports, but not for dance, because I got scared at some point. Every time I danced, I noticed that people watch me and everybody just goes to sit down in parties. And I'll be the only one left there dancing. And so I couldn't process it. So I was like, why is everybody staring at me? And I just shut down.
No more dance.
I don't just want to dance. No, I danced maybe in the closet, in privacy, but I didn't just understand how that, I love the attention, but the way, as you're dancing, it's almost like some people will look at you in a certain way, this one don't come now. Nobody go see us. And they just go down and go and say, so some of that was a bit negative for me. And I was like, why am I taking your shine? As a child, I couldn't understand that. And I was like, you know what, I don't want to be the reason why people leave the dance floor. But some people will say, it's because you know how to dance so well. And people feel intimidated, but it didn't register like that. But fast forward secondary school, I was more into sports, and it was doing the jam, trying to get into school, university. That was where it came back full force. I was battling with my physical health from a place of, I used to be a size 16, so I used to be very, very big. And I wanted to slim down because I had this derogatory, people always say, you're fat, you have this, you're this. So I just felt not comfortable in my own skin. I was not confident, even though I was confident in other things in life. But when it comes to my body, I was a bit too conscious of it, and I just didn't like my body. And I went through the whole journey of trying to lose weight and all of that, but dance gave me my self-esteem and confidence back. And I wanted to give that back to people, so I went to National Stadium, and I joined an aerobic class. One day, teacher did not come. I decided to just take the class. Everybody liked it, and that's where dance now became a thing for fitness, and people liked it. And I was like, so this thing has a positive impact vis-a-vis what I thought before. That is where the essence of it started for me. Not that, I want to be a dancer. Like nowadays you have kids, I want to be a dancer so I can be dancer for Davido, so I can blow, so I did not do it for that. I did it for finding myself, and I saw that it could do the same for other people. And so when I now entered the entertainment industry, I just transferred that essence into that. And when jam was jamming, school was schooling, and families, everything is in my book anyway. And all of the things, life was just lifing. I resorted to say, you know what, if this is the tool I have to go through life, this is the only thing that has not disappointed me, I will put all my energy into making something out of dance. I hope that helps, that covered.
I am trying to imagine a size 16 coffee right now. I'm just trying to see what is size 16.
I wish I had a picture to show you. See how my chicks are very chubby and everything like that. Yeah.
And those who knew you then, when they now see you on stage dancing, they will be like, no, it's not the same person.
Yeah, exactly. Especially my secondary school mates. I'm very sure they will be surprised. Yes.
Okay. Wow, 25 years. So it's that transition that made you now decide to make it a thing?
Yes, and basically because I did not like the mindset, the box of you are not honored except you are doctor, lawyer, accountant. I just feel like the essence of human existence far exceeds the templates and frames that the world has created the human's value on. Place our value on. Our value should not be placed on statutory dictations, right? It's limiting who we are as people. In fact, it limits us in terms of how far we can expand the essence of mankind when we are limited. Because the moment you create an identity for something, you've limited it. I was speaking to my son a few days ago, and we're talking about the word identity. And so the moment you start to identify with something, whether good or bad, you have actually created a dent in your entity. So I see it as identity. I have dented my entity. So it's like you don't have a form when it comes to God and your essence and your existence. There's no form. You are formless. Why? Because you are limitless. You are infinite. But the moment you start to identify, you're creating a dent. You're trying to identify as, but why don't you say I express as? So expressing yourself as creates opportunities for how much you can be. But the world says doctors value, lawyers value, engineers value, dancer, no value, artists, do you understand? Except you're making money now. Soccer player then, no value. So there are certain things that the world sees that the idea of how honorable and how well we receive you is so dependent on certain people's class or metric system of evaluation. And I don't buy into that. You can be a driver on the street and you have more value than a CEO in a 24-story building. You understand? It doesn't make that man a less valuable man. He might be economically more valuable, but as a human being, that guy might have a more human heart than the CEO on the 24. So I see mankind from the human side of them and how their humanity, their human side affects their environment. Because it can be the billionaire and be successful and be professor and be chief and be president, but you have a nasty energy or your being hurts another person. What value do you have to the world by being that? So I chose to use dance to express the fact that I will prove to you that there is value in me and I can use anything to get to the top with that value system. And I chose dance, which is like the bottom of the food chain in the hierarchy of the sector that I operate in. But it's not the bottom of the food chain in the value it brings that sector and the value it brings humanity, which is part of what we're talking about today. Movement is life. If a human body is stagnant, it's going to die. So dance is a language of the soul. It communicates the expression of humanity, as well as embodies what allows the human body physically, psychologically, and emotionally to thrive. So what are we saying here? I've discovered a tool that is more powerful than a lot of human expressions in the world because it actually embodies all human expression.
You see the difference between Kafi the dancer and Dr. Kafi? Okay.
Thank you.
So, let's talk. Before time runs off on us, let's talk about this 25-year thing. You've been at this for a while,
as you said, before you came on the scene, there was dance. Then after you came on the scene, there is dance. And there are two different generations. I think I've seen Fela's dancers on stage for quite a bit. I've seen Hubert Ogunde's dancers. I've seen Baba Salah's dancers and all those generation of stage dancers and the rest of it. How much of those generation were you able to put into your 25 years? And how are you creating a legacy beyond Kafi?
Thank you very much for that question. Very important. For me, dance speaks to me as an entity that has values that are encompassing: economic, cultural, which is where you are speaking from the heritage, history, the conservation of our culture, because it embodies it. Look at dance as a capsule, like a treasure chest that can house many valuables that the human existence requires. Dance can help you preserve the stories that tells us who we are. And in it, we can conceal and protect it like a museum of our transgenerational history. We can protect our history with it, and we can communicate it to future generations with it.
Let me perhaps, my apologies, perhaps by way of analogy for the people to understand. When you see an Indian dance, you don't need...
You can say it's an Indian.
You know, without any this thing. And then they have peculiarities, the head movements, the hand dance movements, and all those things. They are peculiar. And they are, if you are interested, you can find the stories behind that. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that, it is what I'm saying. But I'm saying, in terms of taking it from the Hubert Ogunde's perspective to this part, sometimes we trap dance by looking at it only from that angle. Like I said, let's look at dance as a major container that can embody humanity. It embodies the preservation of culture, which is what Ogunde also do. They tell stories that also have the capsules of our history. You understand? Our people's culture, our traditions, our energy, our ancestral value systems. Dance helps become a treasure chest in that. That is one aspect of it. Sometimes people always look at it from that aspect alone, that, okay, Kafi is dancing now, why they do bata, why they do whatever. It doesn't mean that I don't value all of that, but it's not that the only thing dance in itself is about. You understand? It's an ecosystem. That's why I want the world to understand that that's not just about the movement for preservation of culture. It is an ecosystem that embodies preservation of culture, embodies what? Wellness, health, right? Embodies economic value system, because it embodies the need for communication. Nowadays, a lot of people, air vendors, artists, movie promoters, what do they use for advertising a lot nowadays? Dance. So when it comes to the economic growth, dance can be seen there. Cultural growth, dance can be seen there. Historic preservation, dance can be seen there. Education, because dance, when you look at the neuroscience of it, helps rewire the brain and helps with retentive memory, imagination, even healing practices. There's dance therapy, there's movement therapy. Do you understand? So when we look at dance, the value I have discovered is beyond limiting it to just cultural expressions, which is what we saw most of the time in the olden days, vis-a-vis what I am doing now. I am trying to open the mind of the people into the vast commercial capacity, economic capacity, and the health benefits of dance to improve our productivity as humans. So whether in the creative sector, in the educational sector, or in the wellness sector, dance sits positively as a pillar there, and people need to know that it is, rather than looking at it only from a come and perform now, dance on stage now. There's so much more. As a dancer, I can work anywhere. And that is where my trajectory has been tracing. In terms of legacy, I have built systems. I've spent the past 5 years even doing a lot more in trying to use technology to scale how people can amplify the ability to use dance to survive, ability to use dance to to be more better in wellness and productivity, and also the ability to use dance to project a career choice. You understand?
How are you doing that going forward?
Thank you. So I have 3 major platforms. First of all, we have our websites. I have www.cafecreativeagency.com. That solves the problem of nurturing, empowering, and selling. Okay? If you want to learn how to dance, not just dance, the creative sector that I'm more into. If you want to learn how to turn your passion to profit, I created my agency for that. So we can find talent, groom talent, coach, certify, then we can also help them back into the market, create a system where they can be productive, and just like a socioeconomic growth. That agency functions on that. Then I have my personal brand where I am into transformation right now. I'm into helping people find themselves, helping people 10x their human experience to improve productivity in every area of life, whether it's personal, whether it's career option. That is where I'm for mindset evolution. I believe that is what we need in Africa more than anything. And as I'm using dance to also speak this language and position it in that aspect. Also, we have a few apps that are going to be launched at my event on the 9th. We have one, so we started with the lowest hanging fruit, which is wellness, right? So the wellness and there's the creative industry. So 2 of them are the lowest hanging fruit for me. So in the wellness industry, I'm looking at wellness from a transformational perspective. Because for the human mind to be productive, you need to be sound in the mind, you need to be fit in the body, and your spirit needs to feel uplifted and healed, right? In the creative sector, we need to know where to go for training, you need to know where to go for certification.
I think we need to create a documentary around whatever
so those are the systems really in terms of what you've asked, and these systems are going to go beyond us. Let's not forget, education is not just academic. Education is life. So I am I know that in the nearest future, in the 10, 15, 20 years, school is going to be almost one of those things you can just do. As long as you are literate, people can go online and learn anything. Yeah, so yeah.
I have so many questions to ask you, but
time.
I've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yes.
Let me be clear who I've been speaking with. I've been speaking with Dr. Kafi, but I choose to call her Dr. Kafi this morning. Kafayat Oluwatoyin Shafao Ame, popularly, professionally actually, known as Kafi. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you. I hope I see you at the event on the 9th.
Is there anything that is impossible?
Yeah.
One question that I didn't ask you is how mommy and daddy took it when you said you wanted to that. Don't answer today. Another time.
No, because that's so no. Do you know what? Let me tell you what the answer is, if you allow me. The answer is in my book called Ala Jota.
Oh, okay.
Diary of the African Dance Queen. You
Thank
can
you
get
so much.
all your answers there.
Okay.
Yes, and please, on the 9th of August, 2025 at Landmark, Transform with Kafi is Africa's biggest premium wellness convention. Be there to get transformed body, mind, and spirit.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You.
And with that, we have come to the end of Sunrise this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it and for allowing us to be a part of your Saturday morning. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We hope this has been useful to you. Maya Makinde, bye for now.